In September 1666, London was a city of timber and tar. Crowded houses pressed tightly together, narrow streets filled with smoke and trade. When a small spark leapt from a bakery in Pudding Lane, no one could have imagined that within days, nearly the entire heart of London would be reduced to ash. The fire raged for 4 relentless days, fueled by wooden homes, thatched roofs, and the fierce winds of autumn. Flames spread faster than men could fight them. Buckets of water were useless. Fire hooks tore down homes in vain. The heat grew so fierce that even stone crumbled and iron melted. People fled with whatever they could carry: furniture, manuscripts, even their own children bundled in baskets. Londoners gathered along the Thames, desperate to escape by boat as flames devoured the skyline. By the time the fire was contained, more than 13,000 houses, 87 churches, and countless shops and warehouses lay in ruins. Yet, from destruction came rebirth. The city that rose from the ashes was rebuilt with brick and stone, wider streets and safer design, the vision of architects like Sir Christopher Wren shaping the London we recognize today. The fire was not merely a disaster, it was a turning point. It transformed urban planning, inspired public health reforms, and forced a reimagining of how a great city should stand against time and tragedy. But history still asks a haunting question: was it chance that sparked the fire, or a calamity waiting to happen in a city of wood and flame? The Great Fire of London reminds us that civilization is fragile, yet resilience can be forged in the heart of destruction. So when I visited London, I wanted to see all of the places that survived the fire. And there's one place that really stood out for me, which is here. This is Pudding Lane, the place where it all started. So this is Pudding Lane. And if you look at these buildings behind me, you might think this is a quaint, nice street. It looks pretty similar to what it looked like 300 years ago. But it's important to remember that this is actually where the fire began. And the reason why it spread so quickly is because of the very nature of the architecture. All of these houses are made out of wood and thatch. You can see that right here. They're literally right next to each other. If one catches fire, they're all gonna catch fire. This very thing happened right here in this bakery. We don't know exactly where, but it's thought to have been somewhere around here. Either way, this is the spot where the fire started, and from here, it spread throughout the whole of London. As you're walking through Pudding Lane, you can see some plaques commemorating certain people who lived here during the fire. Like this one for Samuel Pepys. He's the guy who wrote this famous account of the fire. He was an English diarist, and luckily he survived the fire. He managed to get out of town before it got too bad. And he wrote this vivid account of everything he saw happening. And it's the reason why we know so much about the fire, because he documented it day by day. As I mentioned, Pudding Lane is a pretty normal looking street today, but when I visited, I couldn't help but imagine what it must have looked like 300 years ago. In my mind, I was seeing these wooden houses on fire, the flames leaping from roof to roof, the smoke filling the air, the people desperately running through the streets trying to escape. It was a powerful experience. It was crazy to think that this was the spot where it all started. Right here in this little lane, I felt like I was standing at the birthplace of one of the most catastrophic events in London's history. You can also visit the site of the fire at the Museum of London. The museum has a whole exhibit dedicated to the Great Fire of London, including an interactive map that shows the extent of the damage. I found it fascinating to see how the fire spread through the city and to learn about the impact it had on different communities. Another thing that I learned from the exhibit is that the fire wasn't just a natural disaster. There were also social and economic factors that contributed to the severity of the damage. For example, London was a very densely populated city at the time, and many of the houses were made out of wood, which made them more susceptible to fire. There were also a lot of people living in poverty in London at the time, and they were often living in overcrowded conditions, which made it difficult for them to escape the fire. One of the things that I found most interesting about the fire is that it led to some positive changes in the city. After the fire, London was rebuilt with wider streets and more open spaces, which helped to prevent the spread of future fires. The city also implemented new building codes, which required houses to be built out of more fire-resistant materials. These changes helped to make London a safer and more resilient city, and they had a lasting impact on the city's development. I also learned that the fire had a profound impact on the people who lived through it. Many people lost their homes and their possessions in the fire, and they had to rebuild their lives from scratch. Others were able to escape with their lives, but they suffered from the trauma of the experience. Despite the devastation caused by the fire, the people of London showed incredible resilience and determination to rebuild their city. They came together to help those who had been affected by the fire, and they worked hard to make London a better city than before. As I walked through the streets of London, I couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the resilience of the people who lived through the fire. It was amazing to think that they had faced such a catastrophic event and had rebuilt their city and their lives. I also felt a sense of gratitude for the lessons that had been learned from the fire. The city's leaders had used the experience to make London a safer and more resilient city for future generations. As I continued to explore the city, I realized that the Great Fire of London was not just a historical event. It was a reminder of the challenges that people had faced in the past and the importance of learning from history to build a better future. When I visited the Tower of London, I learned that it was one of the few buildings that survived the Great Fire of London. The tower was built in 1066 and served as a royal palace, a prison, and a fortress throughout history. It was one of the most iconic landmarks in London, and it played an important role in the city's defense during the fire. I also learned that the tower was badly damaged during the fire. The wooden structures in the tower were burned and the stonework was damaged by the heat, but the thick stone walls were able to withstand the fire and the tower was able to survive. As I explored the tower, I couldn't help but marvel at the resilience of this historic landmark. It was amazing to think that it had stood for centuries and had survived one of the most catastrophic events in London's history. I also learned that the fire had a profound impact on the people who lived through it. Many people lost their homes and their possessions in the fire, and they had to rebuild their lives from scratch. Others were able to escape with their lives, but they suffered from the trauma of the experience. Despite the devastation caused by the fire, the people of London showed incredible resilience and determination to rebuild their city. They came together to help those who had been affected by the fire, and they worked hard to make London a better city than before. As I walked through the streets of London, I couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the resilience of the people who lived through the fire. It was amazing to think that they had faced such a catastrophic event and had rebuilt their city and their lives. I also felt a sense of gratitude for the lessons that had been learned from the fire. The city's leaders had used the experience to make London a safer and more resilient city for future generations. As I continued to explore the city, I realized that the Great Fire of London was not just a historical event. It was a reminder of the challenges that people had faced in the past and the importance of learning from history to build a better future. It was during this time that London was truly reborn. The city's leaders took the opportunity to redesign London, creating wider streets and more open spaces to prevent the spread of future fires. They also implemented new building codes that required houses to be built out of more fire-resistant materials. This led to the construction of many of the iconic buildings that we associate with London today, such as those designed by Sir Christopher Wren. Wren was one of the most prominent architects of his day, and he was responsible for designing 51 churches that were rebuilt after the fire. His designs were innovative and influential, and they shaped the look of London for centuries to come. Some of his most famous works include St. Paul's Cathedral, the Royal Exchange, and the Sheldonian Theatre at Oxford University. Walking around London, I couldn't help but notice the influence of Wren's designs. The elegant facades of the churches and public buildings were a testament to his skill as an architect and his contribution to the city's recovery. I also appreciated the beauty of the wider streets and open spaces that he helped to create. They not only served a practical purpose in preventing fires, but they also added to the aesthetic appeal of the city. It's amazing to think that London almost entirely rebuilt itself within 2 years after the devastating fire. It's a testament to the resilience and determination of the people of London that they were able to recover so quickly from such a catastrophic event. The city emerged from the ashes stronger and more resilient than ever before. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, please hit that subscribe button, because I've got lots more videos coming. I'll see you next time.